Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar, Cybersecurity Issues You Should Consider. My name is Michelle and I'm a marketing member here at DDLS, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. Before we begin the webinar, I'd like to quickly run through some housekeeping. This webinar is in listen mode only and will be recorded and distributed to all attendees at a later date. The webinar will run for approximately 60 minutes. There will then be a Q&A session at the very end. If you have any questions, please type them in the question box on the control panel. Today, I am pleased to be joined by Terry Griffin. Terry is one of our principal technologists specializing in security. Terry has over 37 years experience in the IT industry and teaches all three major hypervisor courses. Terry is also a member of the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers. I'd now like to hand over to Terry.
Is a seminar or webinar. Thank you. There's a little bit about me. We'll move on from that slide and we have a look at DDLS. DDLS is the major training provider for many companies and government departments and is now expanding overseas. Over the next hour, I'll be taking you on a cybersecurity journey which will explain some of the pitfalls and remedies when we're online. The first question we have to ask is, who's responsible for security? It's very similar in that manner, just as workplace health and safety. You know the story, if you see something you can trip over, fix it or get it fixed. Likewise, everyone in the company is responsible for security and everyone at home is responsible for security. Physical security is the first item we look at. Now, the first thing we have to have in order to implement security is a security policy. Otherwise, we don't know what we're securing. If your company doesn't have a security policy, make a recommendation that one can be or should be implemented. Then we'll look at the components of physical security. First item here is video surveillance, outside, inside. So cameras everywhere we need them. We're entitled to know who is in our building and what they're doing there. Man traps, such as we see in wildlife parks to allow the people in or out, one door at a time, one person at a time, but keeping the animals inside, is a good thing. Highly secure computer rooms will have a form of man trap at the entry point. It can look very different to this type, but it should still be there. Access controls and locks come in all shapes and sizes. We need to research and select ones which are not easily cracked or hacked or picked. Some electronic locks, for example, can be opened just by using a strong magnet. Mine can't. Have you tested yours? Lighting needs to be there not only to aid video surveillance, but also to discourage criminals. On the outside, we can have permanent lights or sensor lights so that when somebody walks around the back of the house or whatever, back of the building, it turns the lights on. Inside, again, we might have random lights or sensor lights. When you're away on holidays, you should have some kind of random lighting turning on and off inside your home. Policies, once again. The reception area should have a lockable cupboard for backpacks and handbags to protect not only personal items, but company access cards. The number of times I've seen a reception area which is insecure as far as storing the receptionist's handbag or backpack. Also, social engineering awareness is a big thing. Computer security. We should always lock the PC when leaving it. Security is a must. Staff training here is essential. We need to look at passwords, USB devices, updates and patches, and antivirus software. When you walk away from your PC, you need to lock it. It can save embarrassing emails being sent supposedly on your behalf. I've seen that happen often, and eventually people get the message, but all we have to do is press a Windows key if it's a Windows machine, Windows key and L. That'll lock it, or press Control-Alt-Delete. Passwords. Well, there's been lots and lots written about passwords. However, a simple passphrase such as I have a cat and a dog and their names are Fluffy and Wolfie is difficult to crack. If you have a look at the numbers on the screen, yes, 55,690,749,349,480,000, have to take a breather, 950 quinquadrillion is a real number, and it takes that long or that many years for that simple passphrase to be cracked. You should use a passphrase, not a password. On the other hand, a complex password such as uppercase PA $W0RD using uppercase, lowercase, special characters and numbers would take 9 hours for the same computer. Make it long and memorable. USB security. We should never trust unknown USB sticks. If they have to be used, test them in an isolated computer. Sometimes you might get software on a USB stick and you're expected to use it, but have it tested by the IT department to make sure that you do not get viruses, worms and Trojans installed on your network. We usually use a virtual machine loaded with anti-malware software not connected to the network for testing USB devices. That's called a sheep-tip computer in some circles. Now, a rubber ducky looks like a USB stick, and here's one here. It just looks like a standard USB stick. You've probably all got one, USB stick that is. This one, however, is programmable. It's got a 32-bit processor, 128 meg, only meg of memory, and I can write a program and put it on there. The rubber ducky USB stick appears to the computer to be a keyboard so that everything I programmed the computer to do will be done. You can't stop it. It could be a simple warning text message to taking down the Iranian nuclear facility. The theory is that people think if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, chances are it is a duck. Not in this case. I'll plug it in. There it goes. Obviously, my wife doesn't use foreign, strange USB sticks. She gets them tested first. Okay, now antivirus. That's essential. We have a concept of defense in depth. With antivirus, it should be installed and updated at least weekly, often daily. Scans should occur in real time. Every time we put some device into our computer or download a file, it should be scanned. Defense in depth is recommended. We should have a firewall on our corporate network, at home, on our Wi-Fi internet router, the firewall left turned on all our devices, and antivirus on both. We're going to have a look at some vulnerabilities on the National Institute of Standards and Technology, National Vulnerability Database. Say that in a hurry. Launch the link. Here we go. We're going to search for a vulnerability on WordPress. Why WordPress? Well, it's the most prolific and most commonly used web development program on earth at the moment. We're going to search it and see how many vulnerabilities there were discovered in the last 3 months. I'll have a look. And there are 615 matching records. The last one is a 9.8 critical. It only goes up to 10. Very, very dangerous unless it's patched. So, as we say on the security courses, update, update, update. Now, the vulnerabilities that are shown there are the ones that have been patched. There are, of course, zero-day vulnerabilities. And the zero-day vulnerabilities are those which haven't been published widely and there are no patches available. So as soon as the patches come out, we should apply them, particularly to our home computers and to our wireless router, if it's possible. Updates and patches are generally provided by your company. But at home, you have to configure your home PC or make sure that somebody has configured it to apply the patches. And we're going to have a look at a Trojan. Probably familiar with the story of the Trojan Horse, where the Greeks put the Trojan Horse filled with Greek soldiers in front of the gates of the city of Troy, and the people in the city of Troy, the Trojans, pulled the Trojan Horse into the city at midnight or thereabouts. It opened up and some Greek soldiers got out, opened the gates of the city, and the city was then sacked. That's the story. Now, with our computer Trojan, an innocent-looking application has a malicious inclusion. It works in a similar manner. So we send an unsuspecting user a remote access Trojan or a rat in an email. That's the simplest way to get into a corporate network, and I'll explain how that works a little bit more later. We get viruses infecting a file. In this case, the virus begins to travel. It can run as administrator or normal user. Even if it runs as a normal user and it's confined to the hosting PC, once an administrator logs on to install an application, the virus then infects the entire network because it's got now administrator privileges. Nasty. Stuxnet. The Stuxnet virus was introduced into the Iranian nuclear processing plant through one of these rubber duckies, a USB stick plate, like a rubber ducky left in the car park, just lying in the car park, where an unsuspecting administrator picked it up and inserted it into a workstation. You've seen what mine does, and that's benign. This one here took out the entire nuclear facility by destroying the centrifuges at the bottom right of the slide. Span them out of control. Now, next up, we've got SQL injection, 19% of all attacks. Distributed denial of service, 19% of all attacks, but web attacks, SQL injection is 44.11%, and local file inclusion is a little less. Local file inclusion, before I go on to the SQL injection, local file inclusion is where we upload a file to a website and it'd be the home page saying, we've been hacked, aren't we unlucky? Yeah, pay some money to my Bitcoin collection, maybe. SQL injection, however, that was used to copy the Ashley Madison database, which was later published to the embarrassment of thousands, and I hope some of you weren't those members. Also, Kmart and David Jones have been hacked that way. We're going to have a quick look at SQL injection and see how simple it is to run SQL injection. I've got the website here. I'll just take it back to the default. I'll copy the text we've got there in the center because you don't want to see me make typing mistakes. Now, what we get is a single quote or single quote equals a single quote. Think to yourself, does a single quote equal a single quote? Yes. Does the SQL server see it as true? Yes. In which case, no matter what sort of SQL server, it's going to be susceptible to the SQL injection. It's a major issue. So now Jake's logged in. How sad is that? And then we can do some more things. Once we've got Jake logged in, he's logged in perhaps as administrator. I've done this on a real-time website. Distributed denial of service is another major issue. The Mirai botnet consisted of around 500,000 devices with default admin accounts and passwords. These are things like wireless routers, baby cameras, all of these kind of devices. If you hadn't changed the admin account and password for those devices, the Mirai botnet could have taken control of one of yours. This botnet generated over 1.1 terabytes of traffic, and as you see, we've got a huge number of hosts there, 500,000 hosts, one victim. And that causes a massive heartache for the person who's subjected to that denial of service. The only protection we've got is to absorb the attack if you've got the bandwidth. Outfits like Amazon and Akamai can do that. Deflect the attack, Banks do this. They send the data to Amazon or Akamai and get it filtered, and they only get the real traffic. We can degrade services by shutting some things down or shut down the entire system, which is what we saw in the 2017 census. The site was shut down in response to the overloaded system. Personal security. Well, a lot of people wear tags, and they wear the tags in public. They shouldn't, because the tag has likely got your user name, personal name. It's probably got your corporate number. It's probably got the company name there. So using that information, we can find out who you are and even what your passwords are likely to be. They should only be worn on premises. How can we find your passwords? Well, it's quite simple. We go to Facebook. Once you've told us who you are, we can connect to your Facebook account and find birth date, location, holidays, partner's name, names, kids, pets, etc., photos, possessions and hobbies. If somebody likes collecting Chevrolet cars, then that could be his password, could be Impala, something like that. And I see some people out there wincing at this. It might be cool to tell everyone about yourself, but do they really need to know? Hackers love Facebook information. Offline safety. How about My Family stickers on the car? Do you really want to advertise to people how many kids you've got, what their ages are, whether they play soccer, whether they can be picked up from soccer, etc.? Dangerous. Also personalised number plates. Something like, my car is okay, but Mary's or Joe's or Joanne's, somebody can come up to you, hey Joanne, and they've got you already. You're going to respond to that. Kids' names on clothes are equally, well, even more dangerous. We should have phone trackers for kids. If your kid has a phone, track them, find out where they are. And if somebody kidnaps them, then you can at least track them to a certain extent. Electronic door locks, you should have those so that the kids can get into the house quite quickly without having to fumble for a key. Social engineering, it's a problem caused by the inherent trust of others. We get something for almost nothing. This is what happens when we buy lottery tickets. Okay, we toss out maybe $1 or $2 and think we're going to get $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000 back. That's greed. And that's what social engineering works on, particularly advanced fee fraud. There's also other tricks. We'll have a look at a couple of them. The inherent trust of others is a big problem. Social engineering, the classic true story of a young girl who refused social engineering. She was walking home from school in a Brisbane suburb. This happened, this is real. That's all true, but this is particularly true. A pedophile approaches her, saying her mum has asked him to pick her up from school. Young girl replies, untruthfully of course, my mother's dead. The pedophile took off like a bat out of hell. He didn't hang around to find out any more. She got his phone number. She got his registration number though. Smart kid. There should be more kids bred or trained like that. Drive-by download in the next one. Okay, drive-by download is where we go to a website where an exploit kit has been put on there, and then we get malware when we go to the website. Automatically, it just comes straight down to us. There are various sites, and some kids' game sites might have malware embedded on them. So you've got to be careful. You've got to make sure you're running antivirus, anti-malware, anti-everything. Drive-by mining. This has happened to a piece of software called BrowserLoud, which a lot of government departments in Australia, America and England used for those who, like me, wear glasses, or some people, glasses are not much use, so you can't see very well at all. So they use this BrowserLoud software to read out the website. Now some nasty person put this crypto mining software in the BrowserLoud software so that when the user downloaded the Java software to read out the website, it also started crypto mining running on his personal computer. Very not nice, but it only happened for about 4 hours before it was caught. Speaking of some of these issues, the last web page I want to show you is this one here, how hackers stole a casino's high roller database through a thermometer in a lobby fish tank. How's that possible? Well, the fish tank had this Internet of Things smart thermometer. It was a smart fish tank, and the hackers got into the system that way. So you never know how they're going to get in. It's more fun being a hacker than it is a defender, I can tell you, because you can dream up any which way to get in. Nigerian scam. This is a guy by the name of Emmanuel Nwood. He once sold a fake airport to a major international bank for $242 million. The scam wasn't discovered until 3 years later. Wow, that's pretty cool. Another true story from the Sydney Morning Herald. Now, we've also got variations on a theme. We've got The Spanish Prisoner. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it's certainly worth seeing. The Russian bride there on the right, there's half and half, a male and a female. The female would have been scraped off a modelling website, perhaps, whereas the male is the real Russian bride. He sells these supposed but non-existent females to susceptible people. It's a type of a romance scam. You've got to be very careful of that. Best way to find a girl, I guess, is locally. And fear of a fine is another problem, with the Australian Taxation Office demanding payment in iTunes cards. I hope nobody here has been scammed that way, but a lot of people have been. I've known people who've gone out and said, oh, I've got to go out at lunchtime to get some iTunes cards. Oh, what for? Oh, well, I've got this email from the Australian Taxation Office. I've got to get the $100 worth of iTunes cards to pay a fine. Yeah, really. Okay, credit, debit card security. This, again, is a problem. Now, if we use a credit card in a shop, we wave the credit card around and it's viewed. People can see it. They can see the number. If there's a camera there, it can photograph the card. It can photograph the CVV at the back of the card. So we should keep our credit cards in a Faraday cage or wallet, which is effectively a small purse or small wallet which has aluminium foil lining. That stops radio transmissions in and out so the card can't be scammed that way. The problems with a credit card is the card doesn't have a firewall. We hope it complies with the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, but we don't know. And we've got our signature on the back of the card. That's a breach of security in itself. If we use Samsung, Google or Apple Pay, it's as secure as a mobile phone, which should be secured by a PIN and a password. There's nothing identifiable or photographable by cameras. We've got anti-malware on a phone, and also it's faster, easier and more secure. If you've tried it, you'll never go back to pulling out your credit card unless you absolutely have to. Now, what's the difference between using a credit card online? This is online security. Credit card or PayPal. I won't use credit card. If the company doesn't accept PayPal, I won't deal with them. And most of the companies I deal with are overseas. That's fine. I can use PayPal with them and it works a treat. Putting your credit card across the bar in a hotel in exchange for wristbands, this happens frequently. Around Christmas on company, what do we call them, soirees or Christmas parties. You put your credit card across the bar in a hotel in exchange for wristbands for everybody. That's horrifyingly insecure and in breach of the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards. I've queried on this with the PCI DSS outfit, and yeah, it's absolutely in breach of it, but apparently they won't control it. Why? I don't know. Maybe you have to tell them about the hotels. Email security. Well, what we can get with email is ransomware. Viruses, worms, Trojans, but ransomware is the biggest problem. We need to block executables in email and educate users in safe email practices. Social engineering is commonly used, and we're going to have a look at these different methods for email hacking. And we should use email URL sanitization. If you don't know what that is, ask your IT department. And they should be doing it. It happens here. So if an email comes in with a bad URL going to a nasty website, the software we use blocks it from going to the users. Now, in this case, a town clerk, or here in Australia, it would be a CEO of a council, wiped out all of the council documents, 2.5 years or 2 years worth of documents, mistakenly opening an email containing a ransomware virus. That takes a lot of recovery. We should block executables, stops virus, worm, Trojan attacks. And as I always say when I'm teaching a hacking course, the easiest and simplest way to hack into a corporate network is not to do it, but to send a phishing email to users with a remote access Trojan attached. The remote access Trojan connects to a command and control server. I then connect to the command and control server and control that user's machine. I'm already inside the corporate network without even having to try. And that's thanks to users clicking on emails. So we need to educate users in safe email practice. We'll look at phishing, spearfishing and whaling next. Phishing. This is a generic email sent to everyone in somebody's contact list, which we've collected. Contact lists are easy to scrounge. So you click on the accept a voucher, here, accept a voucher, and where does it go to? I don't think it says on here, but it will take you to, in this case, evilscammers.com.au ripoff. Yep. There is no $100 Bunnings voucher. There is instead a remote access Trojan or ransomware or something equally nasty. Now, in this case, we're talking about spearfishing. It's usually directed to staff from a hacked internal IT department email account. The idea here is the IT department account is used to send all of the people inside the company a targeted, and this is the whole idea of spearfishing, a targeted account or targeted email saying, we need your ID and password, please, so that we can automate a test. A large number, probably 50% of people will respond to that. Now, nobody on earth would respond to this, would they? This one here is spearfishing. The chief financial officer receives an email from the CEO and doesn't verify the email. Doesn't ring up the CEO and say, are you sure of this? So in this case, the IT supply company, fake, of course, wants $50,000 a week over 9 weeks at a total cost of $450,000. As you can see by the BSP and account number, it's a fake, but the one that was sent in the email was a genuine one, and Brisbane City Council got scammed, $450,000. That was in the news. This is not a fake. This is a true story again. August the 17th, 3 years ago. Which brings us to cloud security. Who's responsible for cloud security? Somebody must be. Yes, both the provider and the owners or consumer are responsible. We should always either, whether it's on premises or whether it's in the cloud, protect our corporate network. And Amazon certainly will supply you a Citrix NetScaler, and you can buy Citrix NetScalers, and we'll teach you how to manage a Citrix NetScaler here at DDLS. We run those courses, and I run one of them. The Citrix NetScaler, used as a web application firewall, can protect against all sorts of things, including SQL injection. Can't protect really against distributed denial of service, but it can help defend against it. Let's look next at notebook security. Do we have a firewall on it? Are we running anti-malware? Are we using encryption? Do we use a trusted platform module, BitLocker to go? Can we wipe our devices when we're finished with them? And again, USB security. Now, with a free firewall and malware protection, you need to do research as to the capabilities and value. Windows Defender is included with Windows. You've already paid for that. You might as well use it. It works pretty well. For many years, I only used Windows Defender. Paid for firewall malware protection is a good thing rather than free. If it's free, you've got to ask yourself, what is the real cost? Because there will be one. Most modern computers have a Trusted Platform Module, or TPM. This Trusted Platform Module configures hard drive encryption on both PCs and notebooks, such that it protects against modifications to the boot process by viruses or rootkits so that your computer is even more secure. It also protects the hard drive in case somebody gets the hard drive out of your computer or notebook, or steals a notebook and doesn't know your user ID and password. He can't log on. If he tries to pull a hard drive out of the notebook and use it, he can't because it's encrypted. So it's a very secure method of securing your notebooks. My notebooks are secured this way, and it doesn't affect the speed of them. BitLocker to go, we can use encrypted type. This Toshiba USB stick is a particularly good one. It's got its own encryption system embedded within it. You don't necessarily need that because Windows comes in, if you open up Control Panel, you can find BitLocker drive encryption also includes BitLocker to go drive encryption, so we can use BitLocker or encryption on portable USB drives. If it's worth backing up, it's worth encrypting. What happens when we're finished using some of these devices? PCs often have, well, you always pretty much have hard drives. Printers often have hard drives, so too copy machines. Any device with a hard drive. What sort of other devices do you have with hard drives? Well, we have a lot of network equipment with hard drives in there. Once you're finished using it, you need to securely wipe the drive. I find the best way to securely wipe a drive is to use a drill press. Sounds a bit vicious, but if the drive is no longer in use and I've finished with it and it's not working anymore in some cases, I just put several holes into the platters and that totally destroys its capability of being hacked. Securely wipe your devices when you're finished with them. We have corporate notebooks. If a child downloads a game onto a corporate notebook, it puts corporate data at risk of remote access Trojans, a virus attack or ransomware. And when the owner or user of the notebook goes back to work and plugs the notebook back into the corporate network, the ransomware can travel across into every machine on the corporate network. Probably 50% of viewers have seen the results of ransomware. I ask this question every course I teach, every security course I teach, and it turns out about 50% of people have had ransomware. When ransomware, well, a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, there was only about 20–30%. Now it's up to 50%. It's getting greater. People need to be prepared for it. How about mobile device security? Well, we've got mobile device management. Mobile device management is provided by some of the major companies, security companies. We should have no data on the tablets or phones, and when we're travelling overseas, we should use a burner phone. Some of the options we have for mobile device management, there are many more. There's a VMware one, there's Citrix endpoint management, there's Mobile Iron, there's Microsoft Intune, and Remote Wipe is essential for bring your own device and corporate-owned mobile devices so that if the device gets lost or stolen, it can be wiped. This is just one capability. We can also have secure storage, but we always recommend we don't have any storage on the mobile device, that we use something along the lines of a Citrix XenApp client or receiver or Microsoft Remote Desktop client or VMware Horizon, so that we run the software and the server back in the data center and the mobile device connects to it using one of these methods. So that way we have no data on the bring your own device, tablets or phones. That's a lot more secure. Using a client-server system solves a lot of problems where all data is stored securely in the corporate data centre, never on bring your own devices, BYOD devices. Burner phones. This is maybe a bone of contention, burner phones, because what we're going to do is we're going to give somebody a phone which doesn't have their Facebook account on it, doesn't have their email on it. It's issued before an overseas trip to particularly senior personnel in the company. It should have an ICA, RDP or Horizon client only on it. There should be no data stored on the phone, no email stored on the phone, no use of free Wi-Fi anywhere, even in Australia. The phone should be wiped securely on return from overseas or disposed of after destruction. So if you're going overseas, a burner phone is a safe solution. You might think I'm paranoid. No, I'm not. I just don't trust anybody, particularly when I'm overseas. You never know. So you only should use your Wi-Fi which comes with your phone. So if you didn't buy enough Wi-Fi data for your phone when you're overseas, get some more. It's more secure. Now we look at Wi-Fi security. Home Wi-Fi. We should use an unidentifiable SSID or Wi-Fi router name. So don't say your Wi-Fi router is Mary's Wi-Fi. I have seen Wi-Fi, a Wi-Fi router name at least. I've seen one advertising, hack me if you can now. Obviously the guy had been hacked already and he tried that as an SSID. Now that is an invitation to hackers. I'll guarantee he got hacked again because hacking Wi-Fi, if the password is not long and complex, is relatively easy. I normally demonstrate a crack and it takes me probably about 10 seconds to crack a WPA2 PSK system. WPA3 is going to be less crackable, but the only protection against cracking is a long password because it's a shared password. Again, if in doubt, when you're connecting your devices to the internet through your home Wi-Fi, use a VPN, virtual private network. I do. But then again, you probably think I'm paranoid. Now, finally, we've got a Wi-Fi Pineapple. If you think you're safe out there using free Wi-Fi, here's a Wi-Fi Pineapple. It's got 2 antennas, it's got 2 radios, one transmit, one receive, and it's got a USB Ethernet connection to plug into the computer. Now, I'll use a mouse here. The victim's computer is there on the left, you can see that there, and is transmitting Wi-Fi and receiving via the Wi-Fi Pineapple. The Wi-Fi Pineapple has that USB connection, this cable here, going to the attacker's notebook. The notebook's running some malicious, well, not malicious on his notebook, but malicious to the victim, malicious software such as Wireshark, monitoring software, or modification software such as Burp Suite Props. And that notebook then connects to the corporate Wi-Fi in Macca's or Starbucks or wherever it happens to be. So what happens is the user thinks they're connected all the way through just to Macca's free Wi-Fi, when in fact they're connected to the Wi-Fi Pineapple because it's transmitting a better signal than Macca's free Wi-Fi. It's called Macca's free Wi-Fi, which is why the user connected to it in the first place. It's very easy to configure, very easy to set up, and great fun to demonstrate. And make sure you don't use free Wi-Fi anywhere. It's just unsafe. I know it's free, but if it's free, what's the cost? So the free Wi-Fi dangers are monitoring, hacking, remote access Trojans, your privacy can be lost, and data can be exfiltrated. And finally, here's a Wi-Fi Pineapple being used. This guy over here, you can't see his Wi-Fi Pineapple. it's probably like mine in a pouch. So it's got a little pouch on there, but if I want to go incognito, I take the little Wi-Fi patch off the pouch, and you can run it in your pouch and connect it to your mobile phone so nobody knows what you're doing. Don't use free public Wi-Fi anywhere. Be safe. And that's over to Gary. Thank you, Gary.
Well, good afternoon from Perth. I'm feeling pretty bad now because I'm sat in Macca's and I'm about to send you my 3 slides. Actually, I'm not, because I'd already sat through the session and I already know. If you could advance a slide, that'd be fab. There have been around 200 people joining this call, and that's fantastic. Thank you for taking the time to do that. I've got sort of 2 rhetorical questions for you. At the very start of this, Terry said, who's responsible for security? Well, the answer is everybody. But fundamentally, from the people on this call, you're going to be responsible. Some of you are going to be responsible for your home security, which Terry's addressed. Some of you will be responsible for your corporate security, making sure that your own organizations are not hacked and are suitably protected. And I've got just a couple of slides to talk around the training and the certification that wraps around that. Because unlike vendor certifications, unlike AWS or Microsoft, where you follow a prescribed path, you start here and finish there and you get the skills. For security, there are a whole heap of different ways that you can ensure that you've got the skills to do the jobs that you need to do, and also have the skills to be much more marketable. So I'd pose the final rhetorical question. Would you trust a pilot who hadn't been validated? You just got on that jetliner. There's an inherent amount of trust that that pilot has had his skills tested, and frankly had his skills tested frequently. He's been revalidated and reassessed. Would you trust a surgeon who'd learned on the job? My wife was recently going in for an operation, and the surgeon literally said, "It's okay. I googled how to do it this morning," and her face drained of colour immediately. She's not big on sense of humour. So not only do we need to make sure that we have people with the right skills looking after our security, but I think we also need to make sure that those skills are validated and kept up to date. And I'd like the next slide, please, if that's possible. I went through and had a look at all of the organisations that have reported data breaches thus far this year. So I did this slide about a week ago. So this is data that's up to January, up to about a week ago. So these are organisations who have mandated through legislation that they've had a data breach of some sort or other. There are some huge names on there: Microsoft, Australia Post, Bunnings Warehouse. Again, if it's your job, do you want to have to go and tell your boss that, you know what, boss, we've had a bit of a breach and our website has been defaced? Actually, that's not so much a breach as a complete hack, but we've actually lost our customer information. All the people that we've sold to over the last 5 years, 5 minutes, 5 months is now sloshing around the internet. Many of you will know the I've Been Pawned website. If you haven't, maybe you want to go and check it out. I started getting emails recently addressed to me using a spoof domain that I use, but using a password I use fairly frequently. Clear indication that somebody has had a data breach, which included my password, and I'm getting emails saying, "Dear Gary at planb.co.uk," which is my spoof domain, password blah, 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 you need to pay us this money or we're going to release that information. This stuff is out there. Just because we've signed into McDonald's monopoly program, given all of our details, doesn't mean that information is secure. But more importantly for me, more importantly for your organizations, is ensuring that we're not the ones that have to report it upstream to the relevant authorities, but also not having to go to our CEO and saying, "Sorry, Mr. CEO, I've lost all of our data." And there are 2 examples I've pulled out of there. Toyota Australia hit by a cyber attack, takes down email, takes down other systems. Ransomware was basically released, pay us lots of money or your Corolla gets it. It's not fun and it's not great. Now, I said that unlike vendors where we have a prescribed start, middle and end from training, that doesn't exist in cybersecurity. So if I can ask for the next build, the next slide, or even the next slide. This one seems to repeat twice. I just wanted to make the message and drive the message firmly home. Data breaches are bad and you don't want to be the one that reports it. What I did is I created this slide really around some of the most popular certifications right now. And these are all fairly obviously offered by DDLS, because it's kind of my job to make you aware of what we can offer and how we can help solve your problems. If you look at the very top of this slide, I'll draw your attention to where I say more technical and more process. So some of these are very kind of hands-on. So the Certified Ethical Hacker, CEH, is very hands-on. Things like CISM, Information Security Management, is less hands-on. But I'm going to just take you on a very swift journey through this model starting at the bottom. There's a piece of training called Resilia Frontline. Resilia Frontline is designed for you, it's designed for your receptionist, it's designed for the forklift truck operator. That is learning that's designed for everybody inside your organization. It's how to spot a phishing attempt. It's how to ensure that we understand what safe computing looks like. I mean, Terry's just been through a whole heap of things around phishing attacks, for example, but it happens every single day, including in our own business. So that's short, that's digital, that's absorbed, and it's particularly good where you need compliance to say people have got that level of cybersecurity awareness. But what about if we want to be responsible for the wider cybersecurity? As we move up that model, Security Plus is from an organization called CompTIA. CompTIA do a range of what I describe as entry-level certifications, A+, Network Plus, Linux Plus, I think there's even a cloud certification in there now. We do a lot of business around Security Plus, individuals from organizations that need to have a base level understanding. You know, Terry has just scratched the surface. You know, one of the things I said to Terry was, we've got a lot of slides here. And he said, this is such a huge subject. And it is. So Security Plus will take you 3 or 4 more degrees deeper than the conversation that Terry's just had. But then as we move up, we have Resilia. It's from the same stable as ITIL service delivery, and fundamentally our most popular course in Australia right now. Everybody's interested in ITIL. Resilia takes that best practice around service delivery and applies best practice to processes around cybersecurity. So in no way would you describe that as a very hands-on technical course. But if it's your job, perhaps you're a compliance officer or you're in finance, your operations or marketing, and you need an understanding as to how to build processes which are resistant, hence the name Resilia, to cyber attack, then that's very much a product that you should actually do a little bit of research into. Me, I'm a bit of a techie, and if you can see behind me, I think there's TARDISes and Daleks on the windowsill behind me. Even though I'm supposed to be the Alliances Director for DDLS, I still love playing with curly brackets and semicolons. So if I had a favorite out of all of these, it'd be CEH, Certified Ethical Hacker. We did a sales demo recently, just around how to sell that training course. And we took a bank that can guarantee 1/3 of the people on this call are banking with right now. And we spoofed their entire website in probably under 15 minutes. It looked like that bank's website, felt like that bank's website. And if you were interacting with it and giving it your security details, you'd be giving it to somebody else. Clearly, we do that in the safety of a lab type environment, but Certified Ethical Hacker lets you think like a hacker, act like a hacker, and frankly, be defensive to stop the individuals who may be trying to get into your organization, getting into your organization. Maybe the holy grail of cyber certifications is CISP. It's a comparatively new one for DDLS. We literally added it to our schedule now. We filled 2 courses in 2 weeks. That's how much demand there is for CISP. CISP requires a lot of expertise. You've got to be an expert in your field. You need 5 years experience. So, you know, basically we could say that we've done Certified Ethical Hacker and then moved up to CISP. So if you're on this call right now and you're thinking, yeah, this is all a bit, you know, whatever, I knew all of this. Maybe you need to test your skills. Maybe you need to see how good you really are and perhaps look at some of the CISP type training and some of the CISP type certifications. As I said, we filled 2 courses pretty much overnight. If anybody in this call is based in Melbourne, you have my sympathy. I'm sure it's raining. It's lovely and sunny here in Perth. In October, there is the AISA CyberCon in the exhibition centre. You'll find DDLS there on the CISP or the I2 stand. A gentleman called Michael Clark will be representing DDLS and representing myself. You know, please go and have a conversation. Say you attended this webinar and demand your free packet of M&Ms or whatever giveaways we've chosen. The final certification on this list is CISM. That's an information sort of security management certification, very much about those who are responsible for information security around information, around document management, for example. So probably the least exciting of all of them from where I sit, because there's very few curly bracket semicolons, RJ45s or RS232 ports to actually play with. But you can see, as I said at the very start of this, there isn't that start here and finish there and you become the security expert. It really is trying to work out what you're trying to achieve. Oh, and by the way, you lay over the top of all of this the security that's inherent in the platform. So AWS security, Google security, Google Cloud Platform security, Azure security. You know, we are the only learning company that offers all 3 of those platforms. And clearly you've got to secure the platform as well as the ways to get to that platform, the routers, through perhaps your CCNA security from Cisco or whatever. So we are sending these slides out. So I thought what I'd do for you, and I hope you find this helpful if we move on to the next slide, is create a little almost roadmap. Moving the slides along, please, Terry. It's create a little bit of a roadmap, really. So what I've done on the left of the slide is, who are you? We're everybody in the business. What is it we need? Well, there's your answer. You're new to cybersecurity. What is it you need to do? Well, there's a couple of options for you. I've not mentioned the Cybersecurity Analyst. However, that's another certification which may be relevant for that entry-level audience. If you've got no knowledge whatsoever and you've just come from the planet Zog and you've never used a computer, then clearly these are not the courses for you. You need to understand what TCP/IP is. You need to know your own way around a computer. However, if you're help desk level 1 today or help desk level 2, then both of those certifications may be of some value to you. And as you follow your way through that model, through ethical hacker, through to the CISP certification, at the end of that you would have the de facto cyber certification globally, not just in Australia right now. All I will say in sort of conclusion is that what we learned through a cyber survey that we recently did, we've got a white paper which we'll happily send you, what we learned through scheduling that course is running right now, the CISP course. What we learned is there's a real thirst in Australia right now for cybersecurity professionals and cybersecurity inside organizations. But we originally had a poll question in here, and I asked the team to take it out. The poll question was, have you had a security or a cyber breach in your organization? I said, I can guarantee if they have, ain't nobody going to tell you. Because frankly, we tend to keep this secret. We tend to actually drive it underground, except we've got to report data breaches. And you don't want your logo on sort of the second slide that I showed. If you want to know more about any of the certification, then clearly DDLS are here to help. I'm here to help. Come find me on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever. But on conclusion, I'll pass over to Michelle and thank the 171 of you who stayed around very much for your attention. Let's be safe out there.
Just before we conclude the webinar, just have a quick question to ask. Let me just bring it up. So just let us know if you would like to be contacted to discuss cybersecurity training and certifications. You can just go ahead and click either yes or no. I'll leave the question open for a little bit longer. Give it a few more seconds to see you guys entering. Okay, excellent. Now I'm just going to close it off right now. Thank you for those who answered. Now we'll jump on to Q&A. Now I can see some questions coming through.
I got a couple of questions here. The first one is from Tamara. How secure is hotspotting to your laptop? Now, if you're using your mobile phone and turning it on as a hotspot, if you've got a decent password for the hotspotting of your phone, then that's pretty secure, and that's exactly what I use. I've got in total about 320 gigabytes a month of download capability on mine, my wife's, and another device we use for when we travel. I travel a fair bit. Last week I was in Sydney, and 2 weeks before I was in Canberra. I won't use Wi-Fi in a hotel. It's not even free because you're paying for it, but I won't use it. I'll use what's on my phone. So hotspotting for your laptop is extremely safe if your hotspot on your mobile phone is using a decent password. Hope that answers the question. Somebody else asked a question about which one's better if you want to do some penetration testing. Certainly the Certified Ethical Hacker course is the way to go there. Amrit has just put a question for Level 2 Help Desk. I want a career in cybersecurity. What cert or path should be followed? If you haven't done any security, I'll be looking at using Security Plus first and then Certified Ethical Hacker. From there on, once you've got those certifications, you could move up further and further. A career in security is an excellent thing because there's going to be more and more demand for security people than there are for any type of other people, especially as we're moving into the cloud. It doesn't stop the security, but it will stop on-site servicing, etc. But security is always going to be in demand. Do we have any more questions? Let's see. Is it still dangerous to use public Wi-Fi if you use a VPN? It is still dangerous. It's less dangerous if you use a VPN, but I still won't use it. I use a VPN, but now some people, speaking of VPNs, a quick one on that, some people will use Tor or the Onion router system. If you haven't had a look at Tor, you can certainly have a look at it. But if you consider that Tor was invented by a combination of the National Security Agency in America and the United States Navy, so that their spies could report back to headquarters securely, then yeah, Tor is a type of VPN. How safe is it? Do you trust the American government? That's entirely up to you. How's ISO standards related to security? There are some ISO standards, 27,002, 27,035 ISO standards relating to security. You can investigate that. OSCP versus CH, you would need to research that. I can't give you a good answer on that one. Nadia, do you recommend password application like LastPass? Absolutely. If we've got maybe 20 different sites for which, you know, I forget passwords, I use a password manager. I've got to admit that, and LastPass is a good one to use. I'm waiting for NordVPN to come out with their password manager. It'll be all in one. I use NordVPN. Would you recommend doing CCNA before CEH? No, I would recommend doing Network Plus if you didn't have any network experience. You wouldn't need CCNA before do CEH, but you can certainly do it, but you do need networking experience. The Network Plus course would be sufficient. Paul, the best security certification for an IT manager is probably CISSP. Dalmo, master degree in cybersecurity, oh, I just missed that, versus certification, what would be best? I think the certifications that DDLS offer are current. A master degree in cybersecurity from a university could be several years out of date by the time you get out of university to use it, whereas our certifications are up to date. I'm not saying that's categorically, but possibly. Todd, what would you recommend for securing cloud file services such as OneDrive or Dropbox? You don't have much control over it, apart from if you're copying those files to your local system, then you can certainly put the Trusted Platform module to play there, but for OneDrive or Dropbox, a very long password, such as I have a cat and a dog, etc., would be a good thing to secure these cloud file services. Anonymous, with regards to working in security, how much of the job is penetration testing versus analysing the latest patch of security holes that have been released? Probably pen testing would be, you know, if you're working employed by a company and you are a penetration tester, in-house penetration tester, probably 10% of your time, it might be more, would be taken in penetration testing, and the rest of it analysing patches, security holes, and running programs like Nessus looking for vulnerabilities. Would be something like maybe 80 or 90%. There's nothing wrong with securing the system. What database do you use in search for your software vulnerabilities? All of them. Any structured query language database is a good thing. For searching for software vulnerabilities, both Nessus and Metasploit are the ones I use. Eduardo, VPN services like Hola, which does a VPN to simulate a different geolocation to allow access to country-restricted content. How risky do you think they are? And is there one we could recommend to be fairly safe? Well, I can't recommend it, but I can tell you what I'm using, which is NordVPN. Would a master degree in cybersecurity cover the certifications? I don't know. You'd need to go to the University of Dalmo for that one and ask them. And that's the end of the questions, I believe. Hopefully I've answered all of the questions. And thank you very much.
There's been a lot of questions coming through, Terry, so we can address the rest of the questions offline.
Yeah, if there are more questions, we can answer some offline, yes. And there are some coming up. Okay, back over to you then, Michelle.
Thanks, Terry. I believe that's all we have time for today, which brings us to the conclusion of today's session. Thank you to everyone for joining the webinar, and thank you to Terry and Gary for the insightful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.